Hello and welcome to this tutorial where I am going to demonstrate how to seam in these shoulders. Now this is a construction method that I've started to use on a lot of my designs. You'll find it in the Skeindeer cardigan, you'll find it in this cardigan that's as of yet unnamed, in the librarian pullover, and I'm sure many of my future patterns as well. And what's cool about it is that you can get this satin sleeve silhouette all in one piece with only this little seam at the top as the only assembly. And I'm gonna be perfectly honest just up front, there is no really right or wrong way to do this. I'm sure that's not surprising coming from me. You just kind of figure it out, and this is how I figured it out, and I thought I would share that. But if you do it in a different way, that's also fine, because I mean, how many ways can you seam in these live shoulder stitches to the shoulder? You know, there's you do you, honestly. But for those of you who would just like to see how I do it, this is gonna be it. Also, ignore the fact that I have jumped a bit ahead in this particular pattern. You'll see I've done a lot of the assembly that comes after. I just thought I'd get that out of the way so you can only focus on the shoulders. We start off here. So I got a long end of yarn here, which is the one we're going to be sewing with. It's double-stranded because this cardigan is double-stranded. So this is the situation. We got the shoulder seam here, we got the stitches here, and the first thing that we obviously need to do is to transfer these stitches onto a needle, any needle. You can even use one that's smaller, but I'm probably going to use the same size that I knitted it with. So we just poke our needle through here. And there we are. They are now on the needles. That's just a little bit easier to work with. And now I just pull out this yarn here. And there we have it. Now I happen to have 16 stitches on here, so I'm gonna put a marker at the center of these. The reason that I do that is that when we start seaming this from here up towards the shoulder seam, it's kind of nice to know when you have reached the middle point. Now for this particular cardigan, I now know that I have 8 stitches here, but I have 11 rows down here. So 8 stitches, 11 rows. That means I can't be sewing them into every row because then we're gonna run short. So I'm probably gonna be skipping some rows every now and then. So you can literally just hold it along here like this and see how it needs to be kind of spread out along the edge here. So there's no precise science to it, just kind of wing it. So I'm now just threading my yarn needle and we're good to go. So the way we're working here is kind of the reverse of picking up stitches, and as you probably know, when you pick up stitches, you're really doing it between the first stitch, or last stitch if you will, and the next stitch of the row. And that's also where we're going to be sewing these into. So you just kind of find that there's a bar here between the first and the last stitch. This is just the tiniest, even though this is chunky. So yeah, you get these bars that just like from one stitch to the next, and we're just gonna go under those bars. So I'm gonna start off by going into this stitch here purlwise, okay? Going in purlwise. Now it's connected because this strand happened to come from the body side, so I just wanted to connect it onto the sleeve side. And then we find ourselves a bar, but not a real bar because there's a pandemic, guys. That one, let's go through that one. I just have a good feeling about this one. And now we've gone through that, we're gonna go through knitwise and just take that one off. So we are basically Kitchener stitching on one side and just sewing in on the other. Now that we've taken that stitch off, we need to go in purlwise to the next stitch. Everyone who knows Kitchener stitch will know this one. And we're gonna have to look for a new bar. Again, I'm just winging it here. There's a bar here. That seems like a good place. And we pull through. And then we can go through here purlwise and slip this stitch off and go into the next one knitwise. How are we doing for space here? We're just winging it, like I said. So let's see if we can find a bar that's closer to that stitch. Where did we go last time? Okay. I think the next bar is good. Some of these are gonna have to be adjacent to some, you're gonna have to skip a row. So we're going again, purlwise, and we're going to the next one, knitwise. You got this one now. I feel like now is the time to skip a bar, so we're gonna skip the next one and go into this one. And we're gonna knit in purlwise and knitwise. How are we doing for space? I think we're doing good. So I'm gonna go in the next bar underneath here. I apologize that it's so hard to see, but that's basically the best I can do, even with chunky yarn. And then we go through here, purlwise and then knitwise. Still think it's looking good. We have 3 stitches here to put in here, and I will say, like, if you are in doubt about the distribution of the stitches to the shoulder, probably want to see if you can gather some up here if you're going from a puffed look. Otherwise, just try to get it even. I'm going for a puffed look, so this is just fine by me. I'm gonna go through the next bar on this one. I think we are good for space. And we're purling off. I say purl off. We're going purlwise, slip off. Going knitwise, do not slip off. Is it time to skip a bar? I think it's time to skip a bar, guys. And we're going purlwise and knitwise. So far so good. We're almost at the halfway point. You can see how it's looking pretty neat. I'm gonna go to the next bar. Going purlwise, slip off, and now we're at the halfway. Wow, that was not in frame. I apologize. Now we're at the halfway point. Let's take the stitch off, the stitch marker off, I mean, and go in knitwise. So that's nice to know. We are exactly at the shoulder seam. We just slipped off the last stitch. That's excellent. Well done me. Did not think that was gonna go so well on camera, because it never does it? Okay, finding a bar. That looks like a bar, bit of a weird one, but it will do. The main thing is that you're kind of concealing that first stitch column of the shoulder. It looks like the distribution here suggests I need to skip a bar about now. So you can actually see here that we have just gone through this bar because it's got a little loop coming out over here. So we know that this is the next bar, but I did just say we're going to skip a bar, so I'm going to go into the next one. Here. There it is. And we purl through the next stitch and knit into the next. Kitchen stitch wise. And is it time to skip? We can't skip 2 in a row. That seems extreme. If you're in doubt about what the last bar was, just tug it a bit and you see there's a loop going through here. So that's not the bar we want. We want the next one. And we... It's so hard to stay in frame. Now we're definitely gonna skip one. So we're going to the next one. We did just skip one, so I won't be doing that this time. Don't skip 2 in a row. Rule of thumb. I apologize every time this jumps out of frame. It's because I need to see closer and I'm leaning over the table as is, so that's the situation happening here, guys. So at the end here, you may be like, what? Well, I can purl off the last stitch, which is apparently the jargon I'm using now, but there is no next stitch to knit into, you know, with the darning needle. This is where I'm kind of like, you know what? Perfectionism was never really my thing, so I'm just gonna gonna see. Well, I'm just gonna put in the needle. We can put it in here. That worked. There's no gap here. Looks fine. I can put it through another time just to ensure that there is no gap. Yeah, that looks pretty good to me. So those are our shoulder seam. Ignore that weird stitch, that's on the body of the cardigan. I can't be held responsible for that. So that's our shoulder. You just weave in this end on the inside of your work. that's really all you need to do. So you can see here I went for a bit of a puff, and there's an elegant little puff happening here. So there, that's how it works. I hope this gave you a little bit of confidence in how you can do this. Other people prefer to bind off these live stitches and then just seam them in that way, and that's totally fine as well. I'm sure there are lots of tutorials for how to do that, but this is just how I like to do it because I find it easier to work with live stitches. But you do you. I hope this was helpful, and yeah, bye.